I recently commented on a YouTube video and wanted to know the reasons why people vote third party. As more and more comments came in, one thing became apparently clear. There seems to be a complete divide about seemingly simple facts when it comes to this election. Let's just dive on in. The first main reason people gave me is that they are convinced that Jill Stein can still win the election. Just imagine if everybody who was told not to vote third party and voted third party, they would win. That's nice, but even if that was true, it's not the reality we live in today. 45 million people aren't just going to change their vote. Well, the idea that Stein can't win is corporate propaganda, and the polls are biased. Of course, if the polls don't have my candidate winning, then it must be a giant media conspiracy. Well, unfortunately, that's not how it works. Polls are done mathematically, and like science, our math doesn't care about our political ideologies. These statistical polls are done using a sample Z testing method, which gives out a confidence level of 98%. With hundreds of 98% confident testing polls, you get as accurate as possible a prediction of how the election will go down. So you can say these polls are bullshit, or you can make up how they don't ask younger voters, even though these polls are conducted by plugging in random land and cell phone lines. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that Jill Stein, with under a month to go, is polling at 1 to 4%. Next, we come along people who believe that she is just like, if not worse, than George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. I'm not sure if they remember the Bush years or if they don't care to look it up, but Bush was pro-tax cuts on the wealthy, anti-LGBT rights in all forms, anti-criminal justice reform, anti-climate change, anti-stem cell, anti-women's rights, anti-social security, and that is just to name a few. Hillary believes in the exact opposite of Bush when it comes to those policies, which, by the way, he enacted a policy on of all those beliefs. Let's see what else we got wrong on Hillary's policy. Apparently, Hillary has tortured and killed innocents. I think this guy isn't aware what the Secretary of State does. He seems to be confusing the position with the Secretary of Defense, U.S. military generals, and the President of the United States. Let's not forget, because she supports fracking, that makes her as bad as Donald Trump. Even though he supports fracking and coal, along with tearing up any environmental agency and treaty he gets his hands on. What else do we got? Ah, yes. Polls are bullshit. They feed us with to dishearten us and make us believe we have no chance. To make that quote accurate for Jill Stein voters, I'm going to change the word polls to facts. Facts are bullshit. They feed us with to dishearten us and make us believe we have no chance. Now it's accurate. Do I think she will reform Wall Street? Yes, moderately, with imposing a risk fee, like it says on her website, with all her other policies. What is Trump doing about Wall Street? Oh, that's right, nothing. No, the primary election wasn't rigged. That's not why Bernie wasn't the nominee. We live in a democracy, and Hillary got over 1 million votes more than Bernie. Also, let's not forget that Bernie did much better in caucus states than Hillary, and caucuses are much less democratic than direct voting. I voted for Bernie in the primary, but now, like Bernie, I completely support Hillary for 2 reasons. One being she voted with Bernie on over 90% of the issues when they were both in the Senate. And 2, because of the disaster Trump would be as president from both a policy point and an attitude point. Wait, Hillary is paying me to comment on YouTube videos? Why haven't I gotten a check? She must have my address wrong. Hopefully she doesn't find out I supported Bernie in the primaries. Another major reason people give is that Trump and Hillary are both equally as bad, even though I already created a detailed video of this very subject, linked down below. Let's just see their reasons. You can vote for Hillary. I'm not, because I care about policy. No, you don't. If you really cared about policy, you would look up both Trump and Hillary's policy proposals on their website and not a conspiracy blog. Just go on their website. Both lay out their plan in detail. I have to think about my children, and they shouldn't be held as a slave to the two-party system, get nothing done because I was afraid to vote third party. I believe it's safe to say that your children will have a much harder time if they live in a world where Donald Trump was president for 4 to 8 years. Not to mention that Trump's 3 to 4 conservative justices will be voting against anything progressive being implemented for the next 20 to 40 years. How about we go back in time 16 years? If somebody who was thinking of voting for Ralph Nader came up to you and said, "What's the difference between Gore and Bush?" would you still encourage them to vote green, knowing how badly Bush messed up the economy? Say what you want about Gore, but he would not have lowered taxes on the rich, which expanded income inequality. He would not have gone to war in Iraq and therefore not destabilized the Middle East, not to mention saving thousands of lives, and he would have greatly invested in green energy, lessening the impacts of climate change. I wonder how the millennial generation feels today about people voting for the Green Party back in 2000. Sorry, the lesser of two evils is not how it works.
Listen, jerk, this isn't like deciding not to go to the movies because they all suck. Fact is, we're going to have to see a movie whether we like it or not. And that movie's going to be 4 years long. And you better hope it's not the one that ends with Trump nuking Wisconsin.
This might be my favorite comment. And I quote, "Voting for someone just because they can win is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard." End quote. But seriously, guys, politics is not a fucking game. There are so many lives that will be impacted by this vote. I don't understand the childish attitude people have when it comes to electing the most powerful person in the world. But fine. If you're not going to vote for someone who can win, then please vote for yourself. You agree with yourself 100%. So you might as well throw away your vote that way. What else do we got? Ah, yes. It's Hillary's fault, not ours, if Trump becomes president. Let's act like grown-ups, guys. You don't have to agree with candidates on 100% of the issues. Let's state 2 obvious facts that people can't possibly argue against. 1, either Trump or Hillary will be president. And 2, Trump and Hillary have completely different political views. Once again, for a job that is so important, you really need to vote for whose political views you favor more. Finally, the arguments that made no sense. Hillary is responsible for the biggest Wall Street deregulations in this country's history. Not sure what reality you're basing that in. My only assumption is that you get your news from an alternate universe. Hillary cannot possibly be for regulation if she sold fracking around the world. If Hillary really wanted to stop climate change, then she wouldn't be for pro-fracking and pro-pipelines. Those comments are very ironic, because it's the exact same logic that people use when they don't believe in climate change. They point to a few studies that show no link to CO2 emissions and climate change, or they read the opinions of a few scientists who don't believe in climate change. Now, while they focus heavily on an anthill of evidence, they completely ignore the mountain of evidence right behind that completely contradicts their beliefs. So they won't focus on tens of thousands of scientific studies that does show a clear link between CO2 and climate change, and they don't ask the millions of scientists who do believe climate change is happening. Just like these 2 guys, they ignore the tens of thousands of times when Hillary has been great on the environment, and focus all their attention on the few times when Hillary has not been. Therefore, since Hillary was for fracking, she could never be for any positive environmental policies. Lastly, I just want to say this. I really don't see any logical reason to vote Green Party. The most powerful position in the world will either be held by Trump or by Hillary. Almost all the responses I got were arguments that were not based in reality. And that is frustrating, because I really don't know how to debate someone who is not currently observing the same reality that I am. If I see the grass as being green and someone else sees the grass as being purple, I don't see how anyone can ever change their mind. Once again, guys, thanks for sticking with this video. This is an incredibly young YouTube channel, so if you like it, please subscribe. Thank you.
So I would just ask people, get beyond the personality issue. Take a hard look at which candidate is better for the middle class and working families of this country. And I think the answer is very clear. It is Hillary Clinton.
Okay.